Welcome to the Stoic Responder Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Healy. As a special agent who spent more than 15 years conducting large-scale fraud, money laundering, and public corruption investigations, Stoic philosophy provided a mindset edge that became the foundation of my professional success. My mission today is to share those same ancient mindset lessons with you so that you can turn obstacles into opportunities and adversity into advantage. Time to muster up. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoic Responder Podcast. This is episode 62, Curb Your Desires. I'm going to get you started out here in just 1 second, but before we do, I want to remind you of our favorite 501c3 organization that supports the law enforcement community and is, of course, the Overwatch Collective. The Overwatch Collective is a nonprofit and podcast funding therapy sessions and supporting mental health initiatives for our first responders, our veterans, and their families. The motto over there is one more is one less. And during Suicide Prevention Month, I seriously want you to think about that. One more person that the Overwatch Collective is able to provide therapy services to is one less statistic. One more is, of course, one less. If you want to make a donation or get some sweet gear, they've got some great t-shirts, some great sweatshirts, great mugs, all the good stuff over there at their website, and all of it goes to support a great cause. You can check that out at the overwatchcollective.com. I also want to give a shout out to Blue Badge Coffee Company. The mission of Blue Badge Coffee is to provide customers with the absolute best, highest quality premium coffee that their money can buy. They also take a portion of each sale and donate it to law enforcement agencies around the United States to assist them in funding or maintaining their peer support and wellness programs. These are critical programs that are crucial for the physical and mental well-being of hardworking law enforcement officers and agencies across the country. So you can support a great cause and get some great coffee by checking them out at bluebadgecoffee.com. As I said, the title of this episode is Curb Your Desires. Now, I'm going to start you out with a quote from Epictetus. Freedom is not procured by a full enjoyment of what is desired, but by controlling that desire. So I'm going to tie this in to something that I've got some personal experience with, okay? We've all got desires. We've all got attachments to external things. They can be a significant source of our discontent over time, right? When we want what we can't have. They can also be a potential obstacle to our freedom. And I think maybe the best example that I can give from a personal experience is the example of Jonathan Trevino. Now, for those of you who don't know, Jonathan Trevino is doing time right now. He's still in federal prison. But Jonathan Trevino was a law enforcement officer in Deep South Texas. In fact, back in 2006, at the age of 22, Trevino was actually placed in charge of a hybrid task force of the Mission Police Department and the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office, known as the Panama Unit. Now, his dad was the Hidalgo County Sheriff, one of the most powerful lawmen in Texas, and he had kind of engineered Jonathan's lightning fast rise through the ranks. Jonathan wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps. He becomes a law enforcement officer. He cannot work for the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Department because his dad's the sheriff and there's nepotism issues there. But his dad, not letting nepotism law stand in the way, reaches out to one of the local departments, the Mission Police Department, one of the larger police departments in the county, gets his son a job with Mission Police Department, and then creates this hybrid unit within the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Department that brings in some Hidalgo County Sheriff's deputies and Mission Police officers, including, lo and behold, his own son, Jonathan, and he puts them to work together doing drug interdiction in Hidalgo County, Texas. Now, for those who are unfamiliar, Hidalgo County, Texas is a border county. It's one of the largest border counties in Texas. The major metropolitan area is McAllen. You've got Edinburgh, you've got Far, San Juan, Alamo, you've got Weslaco, and then I said Edinburgh. You've got Mission, I guess, to the west a little bit. So it's a pretty large area, probably I want to say about 1 million people in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm not sure how much of that is confined to Hidalgo County, but on the other side of the border, you've got Reynosa, Mexico, which is one of the large communities in Tamaulipas, the state of Tamaulipas. And so at the time that I was down there, I was working in McAllen. I was there for about a decade. And the Hidalgo County Sheriff had this massive influence. He was a kind of a political star of sorts. He ran for re-election, but it really was never all that close. And he basically was like the most powerful lawman in that part of Texas. And his son, Jonathan, he kind of had groomed to follow in his footsteps. Now, he had a couple of kids, and I'm not going to get into the details on the rest of the family and the dynamic there, but it kind of becomes a tragic story. And I was right there in the midst of all of this. So this task force gets created to disrupt street level drug dealers. It started again by the Hidalgo County Sheriff, Lupe Trevino. And in short order, Jonathan staffs up this unit with his close friends. And in real short order, Jonathan and his friends take full advantage of this kind of no chain of command hybrid unit that they've got, and they begin doing bad things. They begin stealing from drug dealers, kind of like that movie Training Day, and they start reselling the drugs for profit. Now, again, the Gulf Cartel is on the other side of the border. The dope coming across is all coming across through or with the express consent of the Gulf Cartel. So when you start, as law enforcement, start taking down drug loads, that's fine, right? That's an operating cost for the cartel. And what ends up happening a lot of times is drug load gets taken down. The cartel wants proof that that drug load was taken down. They want to know, they want someone to go and get the police report. They want to know that they weren't getting ripped off by their smugglers, that they actually lost the load to a legitimate law enforcement action. What started happening with the Panama Unit is they started in their police gear ripping off drug dealers, but then not reporting it or turning it in to the sheriff's office or to the Mission Police Department. They started turning it over to other drug dealers locally and making a profit on it. And that pissed off the cartel. And over the next few years, the Panama Unit, as they're doing all this stuff, they gained this reputation for industrial scale corruption. Everybody starts hearing about it, right? My colleagues and I was on a DEA task force. We start hearing whispers. We start hearing about this RIP crew, this police crew. And we're not sure at first if these are real police officers or if it's a drug gang that's dressed as police officers. We're not sure exactly what's going on, but these guys are not quiet about what they're doing. They're corrupt, and on top of that, they are engaged in lavish partying. They're going to strip clubs regularly. They're taking trips to Vegas. They're going all over the place and kind of throwing money around. They're getting all dressed up, and the unit's going off to Vegas. They've got, they start getting into cocaine. They start getting into prostitution. They start doing all of the things that happens when money is no object. You're buying a new boat, you're buying a new truck. And for anyone looking from the outside looking in, this kid in his mid-20s now, because by the time this starts to fall apart, it's about 2010, 11. As this starts to fall apart, you've got a young kid in his mid to late 20s who's a police officer in a small town in deep South Texas, who's probably salaried at maybe $60,000-$70,000 a year at the time, maybe on the high end, is living this high roller lifestyle. And his dad, the sheriff, is kind of looking the other way while the kid lives in his house. And a lot of people from the outside looking in are saying, oh, maybe it's just that, he lives at home. He doesn't have many expenses. He's working a lot of overtime. But eventually the rumors became reality. Investigations started getting opened up. And Jonathan, and I think it was about 15 of his colleagues, we ended up getting a whole bunch of people, um, locked up, including eventually the sheriff himself, all fell because of this corruption scandal. Eventually ended up with federal charges. Several local drug dealers they had partnered with got charged as well. Just one after another, people start falling. So while this hubris and this entitlement fueled Jonathan's rise, it was actually a lack of discipline and control that opened the door to his fall in the first place. See, he had tied his happiness, he had tied his self-worth, he had tied his value, his whole worldview, the attainment of external objects, things like promotions, things like the fast track, women, clothing, riches, money, cars, vehicles. And when he was given the opportunity to obtain those things illicitly, he wasn't able to control his desires. You see, when we no longer feel compelled to constantly acquire and consume, we can actually find contentment and freedom within ourselves. We can find contentment and freedom pretty easily. We don't actually need to have things to be content. We can be content with very little. In fact, this idea of wealth, this idea of attaining the most, which really only existed for about 4 or 5 thousand years of human evolution. There was a point in time where we stopped carrying all the things that we could on our own back, and we started actually putting roots down. And that's when wealth, and that's when the acquisition of things started to become something. And we're all at our core, we're all primates, right? We all see the other monkey has something, and we all want to go get that thing from the other monkey. It's monkey see, monkey do, right? The reality is we can live with much less. But Jonathan got caught in that trap. He got caught in that trap of chasing his desire, that inability to control the desire. And again, when we recognize our happiness, our sense of fulfillment doesn't depend on those external possessions or circumstances, we can reclaim that power. But Jonathan never did. It's a lesson that he never learned, and he got a 17-year sentence out of it. That's going to give him plenty of time to learn it now, to learn how to be content, how to be happy when you have absolutely nothing. I think he's got about 5 or 6 years left on his sentence. It's been a minute since I've checked in on his status with the Bureau of Prisons, but I was there through all of it. I was out on the ops. I was out there. I was out there the day that the guys got taken down. I was sitting in a car about 2 blocks away, watching as one of our dope loads that we were hoping they would rip off, that we set up for them to rip off, got interdicted by the Panama Unit, and Jonathan, in checking the dope and trying to see, if this was safe, where it came from, whatever, he found some tracking devices that we had hidden in there, and he called his dad. So I was about 2 blocks away watching through a set of binoculars as the sheriff of Hidalgo County showed up, and you could just see the conversation that was occurring between the sheriff and his son, realizing what had happened, realizing that his son had either the cartel put these trackers in the dope, or that the cops, the DEA, put these trackers in the dope. But either way, the gig was up for his son. He was about to face some serious consequences, either from the Gulf Cartel or from the federal government. So I was right there during all of this. I saw it all happen, and I can tell you without reservation that this is a trap that far too many cops fall into. It probably doesn't happen quite as often in other places as it does in places like the Rio Grande Valley, where the cartels pay a lot better than the law enforcement agencies. But that idea that our desires, our attachments to external things can cause us to step out of line and go in the wrong direction is always there. No matter what department you work for, no matter where you work, it's always there. The idea is always there, as long as we lose track of what truly matters, as long as we lose track of our discipline, of our self control, of our self desire, of our own self worth being internal. When we lose track of those things, it makes us vulnerable in the same way that Jonathan Trevino was vulnerable. We just hope that for the rest of you, nobody has the results that he had. So, guys, I got 3 more episodes for you this week. Before we go, let me leave you with a journal quote. What desires could be my personal downfall if I don't learn to control them? That's the question. What desires could be my personal downfall if I don't learn to control them? Obviously, Jonathan Trevino had some strong desires, whether it was drugs or women or fame or promotion or fast cars or cash. All of those things are powerful desires, but your desires might be as simple as I cannot control myself from snacking late at night. I'm I cannot keep my weight in check. I cannot manage my alcohol intake at the end of a shift. If I have one, I'm going to have 10. I cannot stay away from chasing skirts, even though I'm happily married. Those are all desires that could end up leading to your downfall. The best way to start gaining some self control in your life is to take an accounting of those things that you need to have better control over. So, thanks so much for listening, folks. If there's a few ways that you can support the podcast. If you would like to do so, number one, you can pick up a copy of my book, In Valor 365 Stoic Meditations for First Responders. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you get your books. It's a great way to practice this philosophy daily, to not become like Jonathan Trevino, to get some quotes, some contextualization that are directly relatable to your job, and daily journal prompts and action items that are going to help you integrate the lessons so that you can be a more stoic responder so that you can live your life with valor, so that you don't dishonor the badge like my friends down there in Hidalgo County. Number 2, you can subscribe to the Stoic Responder on Substack for free. You can get these episodes directly into your email 4 times a week. Plus, you will get any writing that I do. Last week, I did 2 newsletters. I usually do at least 1 a week, so you'll get that bonus writing as well. Again, totally free. And finally, you can like, share, and subscribe to this podcast so that others can learn about what we're doing here and they can take some of these lessons as well. So let me leave you with that, folks. Freedom is not procured by full enjoyment of what is desired, but by controlling the desire. Just ask Jonathan Trevino. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, you are out of roll. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, rate, and share this podcast so that we can spread the benefits of Stoicism to other first responders. It will only take you a few moments, but it can help us tremendously. Until next time, out of roll.